In a world where millions of children cannot go to school, one young girl from Pakistan changed everything. Her name is Malala Yousafzai, and she became the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize at just 17 years old. But Malala's story is not about winning prizes. It is a story about courage, hope, and the power of education to change the world. When Malala was 15, the Taliban shot her because she wanted girls to go to school. Many people thought she would die, but Malala survived, and her voice became stronger than ever. Today, she speaks for millions of children around the world who cannot read or write. Malala's story begins in the beautiful Swat Valley in Pakistan, once called the Switzerland of Pakistan. When Malala was growing up, the Taliban came and made harsh rules. They said girls could not go to school and destroyed hundreds of schools. But Malala and her father believed education was the most important thing in the world. This belief would change everything. If you enjoy learning about brave people like Malala, please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. Early life in Swat Valley. Malala Yousafzai was born on July 12, 1997, in Mingora, the largest city in the Swat Valley of Pakistan. Her father named her after Malala of Maiwand, a famous woman warrior from Afghanistan who fought against the British Army in 1880. From the day she was born, Malala was special. In her culture, many people are sad when a girl is born because boys are considered more valuable. But her father, Ziauddin Yousafzai, was very happy to have a daughter. Malala's father was not like other men in his community. He was a teacher and ran several schools in the Swat Valley. He believed strongly that girls should have the same rights as boys. He believed that education was the key to making life better for everyone. When Malala was born, her father wrote her name on the family tree. This was unusual because, in their tradition, only boys' names are written on family trees. The Swat Valley, where Malala grew up, was incredibly beautiful. Green mountains surrounded the valley, and clear rivers flowed through it. The valley was famous for its peach trees and its peaceful way of life. People from all over Pakistan came to visit Swat because it was so lovely. The weather was perfect, not too hot in summer and not too cold in winter. Malala's family was not rich, but they were happy. Her father worked very hard to keep his schools running. Her mother, Torpekai, took care of Malala and her two younger brothers, Kushal and Adil. The family lived in a simple house with a few rooms. They did not have many expensive things, but they had something more valuable than money. They had love for learning and respect for each other. From a very young age, Malala loved to learn. She would sit in her father's school and listen to the lessons. She was always asking questions and wanting to know more about everything. Her father saw that she was very smart and encouraged her to study hard. He would often say to her, "You can be anything you want to be, Malala. Education will give you wings to fly." When Malala was old enough to start school, she was the best student in her class. She loved mathematics, science, and reading. She dreamed of becoming a doctor so she could help sick people. Every morning, she would wake up excited to go to school. She wore her school uniform with pride and carried her books carefully. But life in Swat Valley was not always peaceful. When Malala was about 10 years old, things began to change. A group called the Taliban started to gain power in the region. The Taliban had very strict ideas about how people should live. They believed that women should stay at home and not work or go to school. They thought that only men should have education and jobs. At first, the changes were small. The Taliban would make announcements on the radio telling people what they could and could not do. They said that music was forbidden. They said that women should not go to the markets alone. They said that girls should not laugh loudly in public. Many people in Swat Valley were worried, but they hoped that things would get better. Malala's father continued to run his schools, but he was becoming more and more concerned. He could see that the Taliban's ideas were dangerous for his daughter and for all the girls in his schools. He started to speak out against the Taliban's rules. He gave interviews to newspapers and radio stations. He said that education was a basic human right and that girls should have the same opportunities as boys. The Taliban did not like what Malala's father was saying. They began to threaten him and his family. They said that he should close his schools for girls. They said that if he did not stop speaking out, something bad would happen to him. But Malala's father was very brave. He continued to keep his schools open and continued to speak about the importance of education for girls. During this time, Malala was growing up and becoming more aware of what was happening around her. She could see that her friends were scared. Some of them stopped coming to school because their parents were afraid of the Taliban. Malala felt angry that anyone would try to stop girls from learning. She began to understand that she was lucky to have a father who supported her education. Speaking out for education. When Malala was 11 years old, the situation in Swat Valley became much worse. The Taliban took control of more and more areas. They destroyed over 400 schools, most of them schools for girls. They said that girls' education was against their religion and their culture. Many families were too scared to send their daughters to school, even if schools were still open. Malala watched as her valley changed from a peaceful place into a place of fear. She saw her friends disappearing from school one by one. She heard the sound of bombs in the distance. She knew that people were being hurt and killed. But even in this dangerous time, Malala continued to believe in the power of education. In 2009, when Malala was only 12 years old, something important happened. The BBC, a British news organization, was looking for someone to write about life under Taliban rule. They wanted to hear from a schoolgirl about what it was like to live in fear of not being able to go to school. Malala's father suggested that she could write about her experiences. Malala began to write a blog for the BBC using a false name, Gul Mackay. In her blog, she wrote about her daily life under Taliban rule. She wrote about how scared she was that her school would would be closed forever. She wrote about hiding her books under her clothes so that Taliban fighters would not see them. She wrote about how she and her friends studied in secret, always afraid that they would be caught. Her blog entries were simple but powerful. She wrote, "I am afraid of going to school because the Taliban have issued an edict banning all girls from schools. Only 11 students attended the class out of 27. The number decreased because of Taliban's edict." These words showed the world what was really happening in Swat Valley. Through her writing, Malala gave voice to millions of girls around the world who could not speak for themselves. Her blog became very popular, and people all over the world began to learn about the situation in Pakistan. Many people were shocked to learn that, in the 21st century, girls were still being denied the basic right to education. As Malala's voice became stronger, she started to appear on television and speak at public events. She was still very young, but she spoke with the wisdom of someone much older. She would say things like, "We realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced." Her words touched the hearts of people everywhere. In 2011, when Malala was 14, she was nominated for the International Children's Peace Prize. She was becoming famous around the world as a young activist for girls' education. But with fame came danger. The Taliban knew who she was, and they did not like what she was saying. The Taliban issued threats against Malala and her family. They said that she was spreading Western ideas and going against their interpretation of Islam. They said that she should stop speaking out or face serious consequences. But Malala was not afraid. She continued to speak about the importance of education for all children. During this time, Malala's relationship with her father became even stronger. He was very proud of his daughter's courage, but he was also worried about her safety. He knew that the Taliban's threats were serious. He sometimes wondered if he should ask Malala to stop her activism to keep her safe. But Malala was determined to continue her work. Malala often said that her father was her inspiration. She learned from him that education was the most powerful weapon against ignorance and fear. She learned that speaking the truth was more important than staying safe. She learned that one person, even a young girl, could make a difference in the world. In her speeches, Malala would often talk about her dreams for the future. She dreamed of a world where every child could go to school. She dreamed of a world where girls would not have to fight for their right to learn. She dreamed of using her education to help others and make the world a better place. But the Taliban were watching Malala closely. They saw that she was becoming more and more influential. They saw that people around the world were listening to her words. They decided that they had to stop her before she became too powerful. They began to plan something terrible. The attack that changed everything. October 9, 2012, started like any other school day for Malala. She woke up early, ate breakfast with her family, and prepared to go to school. She was 15 years old and in her final year at her father's school. She was excited because she had an exam that day in Pakistani studies, one of her favorite subjects. Malala put on her school uniform and packed her books in her bag. She kissed her parents goodbye and walked to the place where the school bus would pick her up. It was a beautiful autumn morning in Swat Valley. The mountains looked peaceful and the air was fresh and clean. Everything seemed normal. The school day went well. Malala took her exam and felt confident about her answers. She spent time with her friends during breaks, laughing and talking about their plans for the future. After school ended, she got on the bus with her classmates to go home. The bus was crowded with students, all talking excitedly about their day. As the bus traveled through the streets of Mingora, Malala was sitting near the back with her friends. She was tired from the exam and was looking forward to getting home. The bus stopped at a checkpoint, which was normal in those days because of the security situation. Usually, the bus would be searched quickly and then allowed to continue. But this time was different. A young man got on the bus and asked, "Who is Malala?" Some of the girls looked at Malala, which told the man who she was. The man was a Taliban fighter, and he had come to hurt Malala because of her work for girls' education. What happened next changed not only Malala's life, but also the lives of millions of people around the world. The Taliban fighter shot Malala in the head. The bullet went through her head and into her shoulder. Two of her friends, Kainat Rayas and Shazia Ramzan, were also injured in the attack. The bus driver immediately drove to the nearest hospital. Malala was unconscious and bleeding heavily. The doctors at the local hospital did what they could, but they knew that Malala needed special medical care that was not available in Swat Valley. She was taken to a hospital in Peshawar, a larger city in Pakistan. News of the attack spread quickly around the world. People everywhere were shocked that the Taliban would shoot a 15-year-old girl just because she wanted to go to school. Governments, organizations, and ordinary people from all over the world expressed their support for Malala and their anger at what had happened to her. The doctors in Peshawar worked hard to save Malala's life, but her condition was very serious. The bullet had caused severe damage to her brain. She needed surgery immediately, but even then, no one was sure if she would survive. Her parents stayed by her bedside, praying and hoping that their daughter would live. After several days, it became clear that Malala needed medical treatment that was not available in Pakistan. The government of Pakistan and other international organizations worked together to arrange for Malala to be taken to a hospital in Birmingham, England. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham had some of the best doctors in the world for treating brain injuries. Malala was flown to Birmingham in a special medical airplane. She was still unconscious and fighting for her life. Her father traveled with her, while her mother and brothers had to stay in Pakistan to get their visas to travel to England. It was a very difficult time for the whole family. When Malala arrived at the hospital in Birmingham, the doctors there continued the work of trying to save her life. They performed several operations to repair the damage caused by the bullet. For many days, No one knew if Malala would wake up, or if she would be able to speak or walk normally again. During this time, people all over the world were following Malala's story. Millions of people were praying for her recovery. Students in schools around the world held special ceremonies to show their support. Politicians and celebrities spoke about Malala's courage and the importance of her message. The attack on Malala had the opposite effect from what the Taliban wanted. Instead of silencing her voice, it made her message heard by millions more people. Instead of stopping the movement for girls' education, it made the movement stronger than ever before. The Taliban had tried to kill Malala's body, but they had made her spirit immortal. Recovery and global recognition. After several weeks in a coma, Malala finally woke up. It was a miracle that she had survived such a serious injury. When she first opened her eyes, she could not speak because she had a tube in her throat to help her breathe. She was confused and scared, wondering where she was and what had happened to her. The first thing Malala wanted to know was whether her friends who were hurt in the attack were okay. Even though she was the one who had been most seriously injured, she was worried about others. This showed that her kind heart had not been changed by what happened to her. Malala's recovery was long and difficult. She had to learn how to do many things again. The left side of her face was paralyzed, which means she could not move it normally. She had trouble hearing with her left ear. She had to work with doctors and therapists every day to get better. But Malala's spirit was as strong as ever. She was determined to recover completely and to continue her work for girls' education. She knew that the attack was meant to stop her, but she was not going to let the Taliban win. She was going to use her experience to make her voice even stronger. During her time in the hospital, Malala received thousands of letters and gifts from people all over the world. Children from many different countries sent her drawings and cards. Adults wrote to tell her how brave they thought she was. World leaders came to visit her and to show their support. After several months in the hospital, Malala was well enough to leave. But she and her family could not return to Pakistan because it was still too dangerous. The Taliban had said that they would try to hurt her again if she came back. So Malala and her family had to start a new life in Birmingham, England. Starting life in a new country was not easy for Malala's family. Everything was different: the language, the culture, the weather, even the food. Malala's mother, who had never learned to read or write, found it especially difficult. She missed her home in Swat Valley and worried about the friends and family they had left behind. But Malala adapted to her new life with determination. She started attending a school in Birmingham called Edgbaston High School for Girls. At first, she was nervous about making new friends and keeping up with her studies. She had missed many months of school because of her injury and recovery. However, Malala quickly proved that she was still the excellent student she had always been. She worked hard to catch up on everything she had missed. She made new friends who accepted her and supported her work. Her teachers were amazed by her intelligence and her maturity. On July 12, 2013, Malala's 16th birthday, something very special happened. She was invited to speak at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. This was an incredible honor for anyone, but especially for a 16-year-old girl who had been shot just 9 months earlier. The day was declared Malala Day by the United Nations. Representatives from countries all over the world came to hear her speak. Malala wore a pink shawl that had belonged to Benazir Bhutto, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, who had also been killed for standing up for what she believed in. When Malala stood up to speak at the United Nations, she was nervous but determined. She looked out at the audience of world leaders and activists, and she began to speak with a voice that was clear and strong. Her words that day became famous around the world. She said they thought that the bullets would silence us, but they failed. And then, out of that silence came thousands of voices. The terrorists thought that they would change our aims and stop our ambitions. But nothing changed in my life except this. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died. Strength, power, and courage were born. Malala also said something that would become one of her most famous quotes. "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." These simple words captured the power of education and inspired millions of people around the world. In October 2013, Malala published her autobiography, I Am Malala, the story of the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. The book told her story from her childhood in Swat Valley to her recovery in Birmingham. It became a bestseller around the world and was translated into many different languages. The Nobel Peace Prize and continuing mission. On October 10, 2014, Malala was sitting in her chemistry class at school in Birmingham when her teacher told her that she had an important phone call. When she answered the phone, she received news that would change her life forever. Malala had won the Nobel Peace Prize. At 17 years old, she became the youngest person ever to receive this great honor. Malala's first reaction was not excitement about winning the prize, but concern about missing her school lessons. She asked if she could finish her school day before dealing with the media attention. This showed that even after becoming world famous, education was still the most important thing in Malala's life. On December 10, 2014, Malala traveled to Oslo, Norway, to receive her Nobel Peace Prize. In her acceptance speech, she spoke about the children around the world who still could not go to school. She said, "This award is not just for me. It is for those forgotten children who want education. It is for those frightened children who want peace. It is for those voiceless children who want change." The Nobel Prize brought even more attention to Malala's cause. The prize money was donated to help build schools and support education programs around the world. Malala continued to balance her activism with her education, finishing her studies at Edgbaston High School before going on to Oxford University. Through the Malala Fund, which she started with her father, she has helped thousands of girls around the world access education. The fund works in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, Lebanon, Turkey, and other countries where girls face significant barriers to education. Malala has visited many countries to meet with girls who were fighting for their right to go to school. She met Syrian refugee girls in Jordan, girls who had been kidnapped by Boko Haram in Nigeria, and many others. Each meeting reminded her of why her work was so important. In 2018, Malala made a very special trip back to Pakistan. It was her first time returning to her home country since the attack in 2012. During her visit, she met with government leaders to discuss education policy and visited schools to meet with students who had been inspired by her story. Today, Malala continues her work as a global advocate for education and women's rights. She graduated from Oxford University in 2020 with a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics. She has shown that one person, no matter how young, can change the world. The power of one voice. Malala Yousafzai's story teaches us that one person can make a tremendous difference in the world. When she was just a little girl in Swat Valley, no one could have imagined that she would become a global leader and win the Nobel Peace Prize. But Malala had something more powerful than weapons or money. She had the courage to speak the truth and the determination to never give up. The Taliban thought that by shooting Malala, they could silence her voice and stop the movement for girls' education. But they were wrong. The attack made Malala's voice stronger and brought the world's attention to the millions of children who cannot go to school. Today, because of Malala's courage, more people than ever before understand that education is not a privilege, it is a basic human right. Malala's story also teaches us about the importance of family support in achieving our dreams. Her father believed in her from the day she was born and encouraged her to speak out for what she believed in. This family support gave Malala the strength to continue fighting, even when it was dangerous. Perhaps the most important lesson from Malala's story is that education truly can change the world. Every girl who goes to school, because of Malala's work, will have the chance to achieve her dreams. When girls are educated, they are more likely to have healthy families, participate in their communities, and help their countries develop. Education gives girls the tools they need to build better lives. Malala's work has shown that the fight for girls' education is not just about girls. It is about creating a better world for everyone. When half of the population is not allowed to reach their full potential, everyone suffers. When girls are educated and empowered, everyone benefits. Today, millions of children around the world know Malala's name and story. They have learned that it is possible to stand up for what you believe in, even when it is scary or difficult. They have learned that young people can be powerful voices for change. They have learned that education is worth fighting for. As we look to the future, we can be inspired by Malala's example to continue the fight for education for all children. We can support organizations that work to build schools in developing countries. We can speak out against discrimination that prevents children from going to school. Most importantly, we can remember that each of us has the power to make a difference. Malala Yousafzai's journey from a young girl in Pakistan to a global leader shows us that with courage, determination, and support from others, anything is possible. Her voice continues to speak for millions of children who are still fighting for their right to education. Her story reminds us that the future of our world depends on making sure every child has the opportunity to learn and achieve their dreams. The little girl who loved to learn in the beautiful Swat Valley has become a woman whose voice echoes around the world. Her message is simple but powerful. Education is the most important tool we have for building a peaceful and prosperous world for all people. This is Malala's gift to the world, and it will continue to change lives for generations to come.